skip around with the overview showing you that Eden represent this 4 million plus years of guarding or gathering societies that predate what they call civilization, or tamed humans that own slaughterhouses. So a lot of this series later is going to get into veganism. You notice that when people raise their consciousness, they start eating different. That's because the major shifts in consciousness on the earth coincided with changes in diets and the way we interacted with nature, as I said earlier. So today, what we call history is often mistaken as the beginning of time or the beginning of humanity. But really, it's the beginning of this Greco-Egyptian social structure that governs the entire world today in some form. So we know that the power pyramid is broken down from the royal families all the way down to your Masonic lodges, which breaks down to Scottish Rite and Prince Hall. And this is your double-headed dragon. Scottish Rite Prince Hall is Greco-Egyptian. There's a dual hand that keeps this system going. Masonry started with the rise of the first male hunting cults. This was your first form of male secret societies, and you're going to learn more why that is so as we move forward. Now, the main two societies that influenced this New World Order were Egypt and Greece. So often the beginning of history is argued to be in either of the two. But we know that the Greeks were influenced by the Egyptians and vice versa. This was a marriage that took place in 3100 BC with the unification of Egypt. So this unification was the Greeks or the Romans blending their culture with the Egyptians, creating what would become the Western world as we know it today, which is highly influenced by these two past cultures. So we're in a Greco-Egyptian time, which is called a dynastic era. And you can see the influence that these past two world superpowers still hold today on the world. Even when you look at an American dollar, you can see the influence of those two past superpowers. You can see the Greek-style architecture, Roman-style columns on your money, as well as the Egyptian-style pyramids in architecture. You know, they have a Memphis here that they rebuilt in Tennessee that has a pyramid as well. And Memphis is one of the Masonic capitals. And we understand that at the nation's capital in D.C., is built just like the initiation pool of the pharaohs who began this New World Order. And this is also why a lot of the deities that influence the world have the same storylines, because there was a blending that took place. And basically the two superpowers that unified during this time adopted the same customs and traditions and made blended deities. Before the unification of Egypt, the land was settled with autonomous villages. This was what's known as the Golden Age and represents this 4+ million years of human civilizations that predate the beginning of civilization. Now think about what I said. They said the beginning of civilization was 3100 BC. But if I can show you people that were, quote unquote, civilized before that time, then it shows you that this beginning isn't a real beginning of our true human origins. The real beginning is before the unification of Egypt, or before the Greeks unified with the Egyptians and created the first major powerhouses that unified to put us in this new world order today. I just want to add that the biggest deception was they got us waiting for the new world order, but we've been in it for the past 7,000 years. A lot of things that we say coincide with the new world order is a new age and a one world religion. But if you think about that, that new age and that one world religion was created during this transition in time. And that one world God that was being worshipped under this one world religion was known as Menes or Normer. And he's Jesus, Zeus, Pan, and basically every deity that ruled in spirituality and mythology post-goddess era. So everything that came after the Predynastic time or everything during the dynastic time represent the age of male deities. Prior to this, there were only female deities that ruled as the singular source, showing you that this singular source is also the womb that all life come from, which is attached to the woman. So they had to curse that woman in the biblical Genesis in order to change the succession from matrilineal to patriarchal. So what happened in Genesis was all of those millions of years of matriarchal spirituality and gardening-based societies was deleted, and your natural inheritance was taken because your natural inheritance was given to you through your family bloodline. But in Genesis was the beginning of a new ruling bloodline. That's why it's called Genesis, dealing with genes or genetics. And the Bible is just a book of royal succession of the patriarchs taking over after the matriarchs. So Adam now begins the royal lineage of humanity. And now all things are birthed from the man. So they created a womb on his rib when they put him in the place of the great womb, aka the cosmic mother. All of the ancients said we all come from the great womb. So that was hijacked in Genesis. Adam is also Normer, or the first sun god, known as Atum. But when you flip his name backwards, it's matter or mother, matter, because all matter is made from the mother or the motor, the matter, the mother. So you can see the truth when you flip his name backwards because the mother was desecrated behind these patriarchal bastards. Excuse my language. So in a nutshell, what the biblical Genesis story tells you is that the woman and the child was now cursed, and man was given dominion over the plants, animals, the women, and the children. That man who was given dominion was Adam. He's also known as Atum or Narmer, the first pharaoh who rose to power. It also shows you how we journeyed away from the tree of life, which is the worship of the uterus and the great womb. And we journeyed away from having family crests, which gave us a natural inheritance. And we journeyed into this dynastic time of now you no longer have a family crest that represents your natural inheritance. You have a national flag that represents your national slavery. The flags represent everything that the patriarchal gods represent, a system of death. The flag is rectangular, just like the coffin. So the symbol of the royal family crest shapes like the uterus, which is life. And we'll go deeper into that as we move on. So now that we got an understanding of the differences of prehistory and history, we understand that basically history is the beginning of civilization, or when Egypt unified and world governments and royal families started ruling over what's called peasants. Today would be civilians. You know, the people, the sleeping giant, the 95% that makes up the poor, not the 10% trillionaires that rule over it all. Those are the royal families. These are the ones who you can trace their succession through the Bible. So God's chosen people are ruling over the world. And this chosen people have always historically been the royal families. And they can trace their succession back through this mythological text, which is another form of history, meaning normer. So that's why when you read the Bible, it's very careful to keep in order of that genealogy. So often when you open a lot of books, the first chapter is full of who begat who and such begat who and such begat who, because this is a book that's keeping the succession of a royal lineage. But they recreated the origin of humans and got us being born through biblical bloodlines like Ham, Shem, and etc.